Thank you. All right, where are the students in the room? All right, raise your hand. All right, I want you all to be listening. This talk is for you, first and foremost. I come here every year, frankly, for you. I like Terry, but I really love you. All right, so the key I want you to think about is I don't want you to lose sight of the big picture. My job here is to talk about the macro. What's really going on that's influencing things, all right, getting down to the micro. One of the challenges, I think, in retail right now is we tend to focus so much on our data down at the very small level and forget the big picture of what's influencing so that we can't always be as successful as we'd like. So I want you to think about, I'm adding another job, right? But the point is when you're sitting there in your job, let's just say you get hired in marketing or you get hired in merchandising, you can't forget the economic influences for example, it was very important to start with the BAT. This would be a disaster, but it'd be a disaster for the whole country because we live in a global world. And one of the things that we should understand is to understand that if we put a tariff on everything coming in here, believe me, every other country in the world will as well. And what that is inflationary, which means that what you buy buys less. And that's the key thing of why we don't want this. All right, now, let's get going. First of all, I have lawyers, and so do you. Now, we're going to start with some of the key themes I'm going to mention here. Hey, come on, you all have lawyers. If I don't show this, I get in big trouble. All right, here's some of the key themes I'm going to touch on. First and foremost, please, a lot of people said retailing slowed down last month. That is absolutely not true. The consumer spent and increased her spending last month. Why did I say she? Gentlemen, 75% of shopping is done by women, and we influence the other 25%, especially in my household. So understand this. So you need to be marketing to me, right? And this is a key thing to understand. But the reality is she was out there and she was spending, but it was on experiences. Remember, the big shift in 2008 was not that we had a recession. It's that we broke the social contract with people. And we said that, if you went and had a job and you worked hard, you had savings, you bought your house, that all went away. So what's happened is people say, I love my family and friends, and they are first in my life. And so building experiences and spending time with them is more important than anything. So that is the important point that creates headwinds, right, in terms of selling goods. All right, second thing. This cohort of millennials, we love you. I have my millennial. I, as you know, lovingly refer to her as my cost center. But suffice to say, I do have my cost center out there. But the key thing is they are now in their late 20s, and they have kids. And guess what? They spend differently than my generation did. All right? And that is the key thing to understand. Everybody used to say, well, once the millennials have kids, it'll all revert back. It is not. They do not value the same things. It is very important. Secondly, my generation, we are still working. We are afraid to stop working. Why? Because interest rates are zero. We make nothing on our money. So we feel like we have to accumulate more, and we're living longer. So the key thing to understand is we are this really rich generation. We are the richest ever in history, but we're also working. So we're not just sitting around playing golf all day. Terry would like that concept, and I know he's an amazing golfer, but the reality is that that's not what's happening. So think about my lifestyle is different than someone typically would be at my age. All right, e-commerce does continue to grow at a double-dip clip. However, there's a couple things I do want to mention. This has not been a profitable growth, and that is a very important thing to realize, that the discounting that has been going on in the last 12 months to achieve that growth is significant. You only want to grow e-commerce if you're making money at it. Last time I checked, we are a capitalist society. So let's really look at that one. That's a very important thing. Obviously, you're going to see a little difference in the numbers. Remember, seasonality and when holidays are is very important. She's a very targeted shopper. She focuses around it. So we moved that Easter a little bit later. So there was a bit of shift that went on in the numbers. All right. So we've actually saw a huge boost in travel in March. But we've seen a huge boost in travel for months. Now, the other thing I mentioned here, very important, is the US dollar. How many of you have a cell phone? That means you know what a dollar buys. And that's the point that's different from 20 years ago. 20 years ago, I was a currency trader, and I actually could corner the market because I knew the nuances. Now everybody has a bloody cell phone, and I have no edge. And that's the reality. And we watch money come in and out of this country in terms of spending based upon the strength of that dollar. But that dollar is not going to weaken, folks. We are the strongest economy in the world by far. So understand that that dollar will continue to lead, and thus it has had a huge impact in terms of incoming spending from other countries. And if you are dependent upon that sector, it's critical. And that is a key thing that we're actually seeing cross-border helping the UK economy get through their Brexit changes. That's a really important thing to understand. So there's some real differences that we see globally as well. All right, just a couple things before I start the numbers. We do something unique at MasterCard. We take the 160 million transactions we see an hour. We add an additional 1.5 million rules and algorithms and additional data, and we bring it up to total retail spend, including cash and check. And the government restates their numbers to ours. So you're going to see everything includes all spending and not just MasterCard transactions. All right. Here we go, retail sales. Look how strong that chart is. Consistently, ignore February. You're going against last year's leap year, which added about 3.5% of growth. So the reality is you see huge, steady spending of the U.S. consumer every single month, right? So there is no excuse to understand that this consumer is not feeling confident, spending, and employed. And that's the big difference. We don't see credit card balances like we used to see prior to the recession. People use their debit and credit cards as cash management tools. So they actually spend what they have. A couple things, remember, I'm going to point this out from last year, but it's very important. See, October 2016, there was a dip. August 2015, one less Saturday in the month. Weekends are critical. Make certain your hours reach that consumer on the weekend because that's when she has time with her family to go out and spend. We actually do work. All right, so key thing, looking at transactions around the country and regionally. The Southeast where I live is the strongest area in the country consistently every month for the last 2 years. Why? It's where the jobs are. And that is the key thing. We see people migrating around the United States now. West Coast, extremely strong. Actually, Washington, D.C., Matt, is the weakest, all right? That is absolutely you not shopping, okay? So, but the point is we do see sort of weak areas. Interesting in the Northeast, we've seen it finally strengthen, but that's really after 2 years of weakness. And a lot of people moved away. So it's important to always understand, you know, where retail should be because of where the population is. And that's a key difference. All right, small business retail sales. They weakened in the last year, but that's because they're going against very difficult competitive sales from before. So understand the comps are really high because now this represents 37% of spending in the United States. These are businesses that are only 50 million or less. Most of them are 10 million less in annual retail sales. What is this telling you about the U.S. consumer? You know what it means? It means we'll pay full price, so stop discounting. Number one. They cannot volume, discount on their product, but we're going and shopping there anyway. So understand what they are offering is personalized service and uniqueness. So that's the lesson to learn from this. This doesn't mean that you all have to just start being small businesses, but it means adopt that the consumer is reacting positively to what they offer. Very key. All right, demographics. See the dips in the population here? I just wanted you to really understand, you really can't treat everybody separately, but understand this group of boomers, they're really rich. But one thing that you're not doing as much as you should be is marketing to me for my millennial child. You know, in my generation, my mother would never think to buy anything for me once I was 18 other than, Christmas or birthday, right? That wasn't something that was done. But now we absolutely feel sorry for our millennial children. We buy them anything. Okay? And believe me, I got hit up over Easter. Trust me. And I sucker fell for it again. But the point is this is critical. You need, talk about the chief marketing officer having a huge job. Because key thing is not just to market to Kate and my daughter. You need to market to Sarah, to me. But then you need to market to me for Kate. So there's a third sort of triangulation that needs to happen. So remember, who's paying is really critical. And that's the key thing. You want to make certain you're tapping them for multiple constituencies. Really critical. And now you see these millennials. But the difference is, And I want this to be really heard loudly in the room. We see the millennials not wanting the white picket fence in the suburbs. They are not moving. Critical. And everyone goes, but Sarah, schools, they're starting schools. That's what they're doing. It's a difference. Why? Because they don't want to be away from their children commuting. And 2 people are working. They're not stopping working once they have children. They're afraid to. That's what the recession taught everybody. So the key thing to understand is you have to stay where they are and understand they aren't. You know, GE made a big move of their headquarters to Boston. They can't sell the 800 homes of their executives that moved in Fairfield, Connecticut. And it's affecting all the way into Westchester. Because this is the point. You can't get people to want a McMansion anymore. The houses that are even built are actually being built 200 square feet smaller. So think about it. They fit less stuff. Like, that's a big thing. So you have to think about all these things as you're thinking about what you're trying to sell them. All right, online. So everybody calls me an online skeptic. I am not an online skeptic. What I am is sitting here saying 2 things. I want online to be profitable, but I also want you to recognize that the growth that goes online is never going to be everything, because shopping is social. We like to be with each other. We like to compare. We like to share this time together. So the reality is this omni shopper is what you need to approach. So you still see double-digit growth here, as I was talking about, but look at that blue line. That represents the discounting we are seeing to achieve this growth. And that's why I'm saying be very careful, because what we see online here is what sells online. Children's apparel. Mom at 9:30 at night buys her kids' clothes, because you know what? What is stopping online? She does not have time to do the returns. That is the key thing. So the more commoditized your product is, the more it sells online. So that's why you should, when you're thinking about online sales, things that will not be returned, because you know that you've got the characteristics that people really want, that's what will sell. And thus, you can see a whopping 9.1% of retail sales are done online. For all this growth we're seeing and all this hype and everything. So that's the key thing. Now, okay, you say, well, restaurants, gasoline. Well, that's the number. It jumps to a whopping 12.1%. So this is what I'm asking you as executives in the retailing industry to understand, that it's not that everything's moving online. It's not. What it is, it's saying, how do we actually create the experience and understand what we want to promote that's good, not promote in terms of discount promote, but promote in terms of push, what people actually want online. Because look, 63% of electronics are done online. It's a commodity. You know what a phone is. You know what a printer is. You know what a computer is. That's the point, to understand and shift your product mix that way. All right, retail sectors, let's break it down. We are not buying clothes, we are naked. All right? I mean, I'm serious about this, but why is this? Like, really, why is this? Well, I'm looking around the room, all right? I would say that more and more of us are not wearing a tie in this room, right? Of the gentlemen that are here. Understanding that more and more we are seeing the casualization of work, which means that people don't need 2 separate wardrobes, a work wardrobe, a weekend wardrobe. It blends. At MasterCard, we wear jeans every day. We're a tech company. So it's a real difference to understand this culture, and so again, understanding your merchandise. But here's the issue to really appreciate, that it has been a long time, all right? And here's e-commerce growth is even dropping off in apparel, which is reflecting that their overall sales. So it's positive, but again, it's not enough to drive the business, and that's a key thing. However, children's apparel, they're a great thing. They're a commodity. They do outgrow it. We love our kids, but you know, they keep growing. You can't stop that. So this is the point to understand. It's been the one bright spot we've seen in apparel on a consistent basis. Footwear, not so much. Again, we just are not valuing it. But you know why? One of the reasons? Because we travel all the time. How many pairs of shoes fit in a suitcase that goes on the airplane as opposed to stuffing it underneath, right? Come on, I know, it's 3, by the way. So the point is to understand this is critical and realize, like, what is her lifestyle? You know,